Have you ever, tried to justify a really terrible habit to yourself? Meticulously crafting this whole narrative where you're the innocent victim of circumstance, only to have the universe literally hurl a rock at your knee 5 minutes later.
Oh, absolutely. It's the ultimate cosmic reality check.
Right.
And it usually happens the exact moment you feel like the most secure in your own manufactured innocence.
It's so true. Well, welcome to this deep dive. And this one is crafted specifically for the Simplified Summary YouTube channel.
Yes, it is.
Before we jump into today's incredibly layered topic, we humbly ask you to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop your valuable thoughts in the comments down below.
Please do.
We are here to bring you the best distillations of fascinating stories, and honestly, your support makes it happen.
It genuinely does. And the source text we're exploring today is, well, it gives you plenty of material to chew on and debate in those comments.
Oh, definitely. So today we are unpacking a brilliantly sharp, century-old short story by the legendary Indian writer Munshi Premchand.
A total masterclass in storytelling.
Exactly. It's called Darogaji, which translates to the police inspector. And we're structuring this deep dive around a central, rather uncomfortable psychological question.
Right, a big question.
Why do we hold the absolute deepest, most violent grudges not against the people who harm us, but against the people who witness our most vulnerable, humiliating moments?
Yeah, that is the core of it. I mean, Premchand is a master of social realism, but he doesn't just show you what people do.
Right.
He exposes the invisible mental gymnastics they perform to justify those actions.
Which is wild to read.
It is. We're basically looking at the anatomy of cognitive dissonance, the sociology of systemic corruption, and, the raw, destructive power of the human ego.
Let's jump right into the thick of that sociology, because it starts with a masterclass in how corrupt individuals protect their self-image.
Yes, the opening scene is fantastic.
It really is. So
Yeah.
the story opens in a very tight claustrophobic setting. Our narrator is riding in a horse-drawn carriage, like a tonga, and suddenly a police inspector, the Daroga, forces his way in. And the Tonga driver clearly doesn't want him there.
No, not at all.
Super cramped, the Daroga probably isn't even going to pay, but, nobody argues with the badge.
Right, it's this micro-demonstration of unspoken power. The Daroga imposes himself entirely because the societal structure just allows it.
Yeah.
But what is truly fascinating here isn't the physical imposition. It's the psychological one that follows.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable.
Right. The Daroga, completely unprompted, launches into this bizarre defensive manifesto directed at the narrator.
Who is a total stranger.
Exactly. They are complete strangers, yet the Daroga treats him like a captive confessional.
He basically corners him to deliver the ultimate unsolicited opinion.
He really does.
The Daroga starts complaining, bitterly, about how the public unfairly judges the police for taking bribes. He flips the narrative completely.
Yeah, he claims the police are actually forced to take bribes.
Forced?
Yes. Forced by wealthy, high-turbaned men who practically shove bags of money down the officers' uniforms.
Oh, come on.
I know. He paints this vivid picture of himself as a helpless victim of elite wealth. According to him, if the police were to strictly enforce the law, all of these rich elites would be rotting in jail.
So he's doing them a favor.
Basically. Therefore, taking their money is framed as an unavoidable occupational hazard. Almost a public service.
It was just, I see the psychological angle, but that logic is completely absurd.
Oh, entirely.
It's like a baker blaming hungry customers for making him eat all the cupcakes.
That's a great analogy.
He's completely shifting the blame. Why do people caught in the middle of systemic corruption always point upward to absolve themselves?
Well, because pointing upward transfers agency. If the elites are forcing his hand, he's no longer an active participant in his own moral decay. He's just, a leaf on the wind.
A leaf on the wind with a pocket full of bribe money.
Exactly. It's a concept related to moral licensing. He convinces himself that because society is fundamentally rigged by people with more power than him, his own minor transgressions are essentially neutralized.
It flattens the moral landscape.
It does. It completely flattens.
And then the narrator in the story, he sees right through that flattened landscape, right? He doesn't buy the whole helpless leaf on the wind act at all.
Not for a second.
He delivers this perfectly polite, yet razor-sharp, sarcastic question. He essentially asks, well, if it's such a terrible burden, why can't you just do the police work without taking the bribe?
And the Daroga's response to that is arguably the most defining philosophical moment in the text.
Yeah, it really stuck with me.
He actually laughs at what he perceives as the narrator's childish naivety. And he says that doing the job without the bribe would be a guna bilazat.
Guna bilazat, which
Ah.
means a sin without pleasure.
Right. A really profound phrase. It's an Urdu expression describing the act of committing a sin or a crime without reaping any benefit or enjoyment from it.
Wow.
The Daroga insists that no human being is a pure saint. I mean, why would anyone wade through the muck of policing, dealing with criminals, and the dark underbelly of society if they aren't going to extract a sweet reward at the end?
That is just a brutally cynical worldview. He is arguing that altruism is a complete myth.
Precisely.
If everyone has a price and saints don't exist, then his corruption is just standard human behavior. It's like a brilliant way to insulate his ego.
It really is.
He's sitting in a carriage he commandeered, explaining away his moral bankruptcy to a total stranger, completely comfortable on his high horse.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the physical manifestation of karma to just yank him right off that horse.
Oh, I love this part.
We transition from this abstract, high and mighty philosophical rant to a sudden, violent, visceral reality check.
Yeah, so picture this. The carriage is rolling along the street, and a gentleman wearing a long coat, an Machaan, and a Turkish cap is walking past. The Daroga, leaning out of the moving tonga, spots this gentleman and respectfully greets him.
And consider the visual contrast Premchand is establishing here. The man in the Achkan and Turkish cap represents respectability.
Like high society.
Exactly. Perhaps a certain elevated class in this society. So the Daroga offers a polite, formal acknowledgement. It's the kind of greeting one respectable man gives to another.
Right, but the reaction is spectacular for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, it's explosive.
The man in the Turkish cap doesn't nod back. He doesn't tip his cap. He erupts into a volcanic fit of rage.
Yeah, just completely loses it.
He unleashes a barrage of vulgar curses, stoops down, picks up jagged stones from the street, and actually starts hurling them at the moving carriage.
The transition from polite society to primal violence happens in a fraction of a second.
It's wild.
The Daroga's smooth, self-serving logic about how the world works is just physically assaulted by the chaotic reality of human emotion.
And it's written with such cinematic pacing. Premchand uses the classic rule of three here.
Yes, the three stones.
The first stone flies into the carriage and barely misses our narrator's head. The second stone falls short, but the third stone finds its mark. It violently smashes right into the Daroga's knee.
Ouch.
I know. The carriage driver panics, whips the horse, and they speed away, leaving the supposedly respectable gentleman screaming in the street, clutching another rock.
Which leaves the narrator, and, you, the listener, trying to piece together what on earth just happened.
Seriously.
I mean, if you're sitting in that carriage, your immediate assumption is that you just crossed paths with a deeply unhinged individual.
Which is exactly what the narrator asks. He's like, is this guy a madman? Because what sane, respectable person reacts to a polite hello with a targeted rock to the kneecap?
Fair question.
But the Daroga, rubbing his shattered knee, drops a total bombshell. He admits it's not a random lunatic, it's an old enemy.
Right.
And his excuse is, get this, I thought he had forgotten the past.
Yeah, let's analyze that excuse, because it tells us absolutely everything about the Daroga's psychology.
I really want to push back hard on the Daroga here. I mean, we just listened to him outline a highly complex, manipulative worldview regarding systemic bribery.
He's clearly not a stupid man.
Right. He navigates power dynamics for a living. Is he genuinely so socially blind that he thought a polite greeting would erase a bitter enmity, or is he playing games?
That is the pivotal analytical question. Is it blindness, or is it narcissism?
Right.
And to answer that, we have to look at the nature of the grudge itself. We have to rewind time and enter the backstory the Daroga tells the narrator.
The secret of the Loft.
Yes. Or, in the original text, the Machaan.
Okay, so the Daroga, whose name we finally learned is Bashir, unwraps this backstory, and naturally he frames it like a tragic romance.
Of course he does.
He tells the narrator that years ago he was posted in this very city and fell passionately in love with a courtesan, a woman of the bazaar.
Right. And he goes to great lengths to describe her as surprisingly loyal and modest.
Yeah, painting himself as the man who discovered a hidden diamond in the rough.
Notice how he centers himself as the protagonist of a grand romantic epic.
Always the hero.
Always. When the time inevitably comes for his transfer to another district, they weep bitterly. They make grand theatrical plans.
So dramatic.
Bashir promises her that the moment he is settled in his new posting, he will send for her and they will be reunited.
But he doesn't. A whole year evaporates. Complete radio silence from Bashir.
A classic move.
Right. Then a year later, he happens to be back in the city on a random errand and figures he should probably go check on her.
And he even brags to the narrator that he had prepared a very smooth, elaborate excuse for his year-long absence.
This is where your theory about his narcissism gains serious traction.
Oh, absolutely.
He vanishes for a year, but his ego dictates that she has simply been sitting in a state of suspended animation, pining for his return, completely ready to swallow whatever flimsy lie he feeds her.
Exactly. So he walks up to her house, notes that the door looks clean and prosperous.
Which should have been a massive red flag that she was doing just fine without him.
You'd think so. But he just knocks and announces, "It's me, Bashir." He doesn't even wait for her to invite him in.
Wow.
He's a police officer. He is entirely accustomed to occupying spaces that don't belong to him. So he just forces his way inside.
But the grand romantic reunion he envisioned shatters the moment he crosses the threshold.
It really does.
He enters the room and immediately notices movement up on the Machaan.
And for those trying to visualize this, a Machaan is a raised platform or a loft area built into the room.
Like for storage.
Usually, yeah. But it's large enough for a person to scramble up into if they are, say, trying to hide.
Got it. So Bashir stops dead in his tracks. He looks up at the loft and demands to know who is hiding up there.
And the courtesan's reaction here completely subverts the power dynamic he expected.
She doesn't cower. She doesn't beg for forgiveness. She gets furious.
Yes.
She actually grabs Bashir's hand, forcing him to look up into the loft. And up there, Bashir sees a man, trembling, cowering, pale with absolute paralyzing fear.
It's such a pathetic image.
And that terrified man in the loft is the man in the Turkish cap, the stone thrower.
Wow. The sociology of this specific moment is just incredible. The woman, enraged not by Bashir's return, but by the sheer, pathetic cowardice of her new lover.
Right.
She reaches up and violently yanks the man out of the loft. He falls to the floor in a miserable, trembling heap.
She actively strips him of any remaining dignity. She refuses to protect his ego at all.
Completely.
So here is Bashir looking at the man who has supposedly replaced him. Does Bashir get jealous? Does he fly into a rage because his woman has moved on?
No, he doesn't. And that is the sharpest psychological cut in the entire story.
Really?
Yeah, Bashir looks down at this trembling man on the floor and he feels nothing but intense pity mixed with mocking amusement.
Ouch.
He looks at his replacement and feels contemptuous superiority. He realizes this man isn't a threat, he's a joke.
That is the ultimate castration of the ego right there.
It really is.
So let's connect the threads for the listener. Fast forward a year. Why did the man in the Turkish cap throw the stone?
Right, think about it.
He didn't throw it because Bashir was his romantic rival. He didn't throw it out of jealousy. He threw the stone because Bashir was the living, breathing witness to his absolute cowardice.
Exactly. You know, we often confuse guilt with shame, but they function entirely differently in the human psyche.
How so?
Well, guilt is about something you did. Shame is about who you fundamentally are.
Oh, wow.
When the man in the Turkish cap was dragged from that loft, he wasn't just caught with another man's former lover. His entire facade of masculinity, respectability, and strength was dismantled.
Bashir saw the man behind the curtain, and it was just a terrified child.
Precisely. There's an old psychological truth that we can eventually forgive those who cause us physical harm, but we possess an almost infinite capacity for hatred toward those who witness our deepest humiliation.
That is so true.
Every single time the man in the Turkish cap looks at Bashir, he's violently forced to remember the day he was dragged across the floor, stripped of his dignity.
Bashir is literally a walking mirror reflecting his greatest shame. It makes complete sense. If someone wrongs you, time heals that. But if someone sees you completely lose your dignity, you want to erase them from the face of the earth.
Yeah, you don't want to talk it out.
No, you want to hurl a rock at their head to shatter the mirror.
Which brings us back to the Daroga's astonishing lack of self-awareness. He tells this entire story to the narrator and still concludes, "I thought he had forgotten."
It's wild.
It proves how deeply embedded Bashir is in his own narrative. He thinks he is the main character, the tragic romantic hero, the cynical cop who understands how the world really works.
He assumes other people only exist in relation to his storyline.
Yeah.
He treats everyone else like NPCs, like non-playable characters in the video game of his life.
That's a great way to put it.
He assumes that once he leaves a room, the other people just power down. Oh, he probably forgot about that time his girlfriend dragged him onto the floor in front of me while I laughed at him.
It is the pinnacle of narcissism. Look, we all have Machaan moments in our lives. Times we were caught hiding, times we looked incredibly foolish, times our ego was punctured in front of an audience.
Definitely.
And if you think about your own life, you rarely, if ever, feel warmth toward the people who saw you in that vulnerable, pathetic state.
We actively avoid them.
Exactly. Bashir's inability to recognize the depth of the other man's lingering shame is a symptom of his overwhelming self-obsession.
Right.
He is so wrapped up in his sin without pleasure worldview that he's completely blind to the raw, volatile vulnerability of the people around him.
Which brings me to a final lingering thought for you, the listener, to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive. Let's look at that incident in the carriage one more time.
The greeting.
Yes, the greeting. The Daroga leans out of the tonga and respectfully greets the man in the Turkish cap.
Right.
Now, knowing what we know about Bashir, knowing his immense ego, his cynicism, and the mocking amusement he felt watching that man tremble on the floor, we have to ask the hard question.
And it is a very hard question.
Was that really a genuine, polite greeting from a naive man who had innocently forgotten the past? Or was it a deliberate, calculated power move? Was it a subtle, arrogant reminder?
Yep.
A polite, socially acceptable way of leaning out of a carriage and saying, "Hey there, nice Turkish cap. I remember what you look like crying on the floor."
I mean, if we view the Daroga as a master manipulator rather than a socially blind fool, that greeting becomes an act of psychological warfare.
Exactly.
He uses the shield of polite society to inflict a deep emotional wound, knowing the other man cannot retaliate without breaking the social contract.
But the man does break the social contract. He throws the rocks.
He does.
And if that greeting truly was a calculated power move, if Bashir was twisting the knife just for the pleasure of it, didn't he absolutely deserve that rock shattering his knee?
Premchand leaves that moral ambiguity hanging in the air. He masterfully forces us to decide who the real villain of the encounter is. The man who throws the stone or the man who politely provokes it.
I know exactly where I stand on this. If you poke a bear, you can't complain when it bites your kneecap off.
That is very fair.
Well, that wraps up our exploration of Darogaji for the Simplified Summary YouTube channel. Thank you so much for riding along with us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Before you go, please make sure you hit subscribe, like this video, and most importantly, head down to the comments.
Yes, let us know what you think.
We really want to know your verdict. Was the Daroga's greeting a naive mistake or a calculated power move? And did karma deliver the exact right amount of justice with that rock?
Can't wait to read those.
Share your valuable comments, and we will see you on the next deep dive.